Welcome, friends, to our Sunday gathering. We're so grateful you're here. If we haven't yet met, I'm Sandra Champlain, also lovingly referred to as hostess with the mostest. I'm a longtime afterlife explorer, author of the book We Don't Die, A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death. I have two podcasts, Shades of the Afterlife and We Don't Die Radio. And it was well over 4 years ago that our first Sunday gathering came to be. It was during that time when COVID hit the earth. And my friends and I came together with an idea just to spread some love and inspiration and style this non-denominational event, similar to a spiritualist service with medium demonstration included. Our idea was to do a short term, just for a little while till things got better in the world. And little did we know, our Sunday gathering became a global sensation. So you are joined right now from people all over in the world. It's morning, it's afternoon, it's evening. Some people get up in the wee hours to take part in it. So wherever you are in the world, we want to welcome you. I'm joined here by two magnificent people. For her very first time, we have Catherine McHugh here, who is going to be doing our address today. We're so grateful that she's here, and welcome, Catherine. We also have my good friend, Tim Southwell, who is a wonderful man and a great medium. And it's the three amigos today. Well, anytime there's three of us, we call ourselves the three amigos. It's always fun. I will be, again, your hostess with the mostest, and also doing the reading today and leading you into healing. And Tim will be doing our prayers today, our demonstration of mediumship, and then also some inspirational words of the week before we end. And as I said, our dear new friend, Catherine, will be doing our address today. So we'll be together about 90 minutes-ish. Buckle your seatbelt. I'm just saying that humorously. It's a great place to be. There's love surrounding you, not only from people in the Sunday gathering who are walking this earth, but around us is our loved ones and cheering us on and being very much a part of our life. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tim for the opening prayer, please.
Thank you, Sandra. With our like minds, let us close our eyes, if you're comfortable with, and we'll focus our thoughts together. Great Spirit and those and beyond, we appreciate the fact that we have this opportunity to get together regularly. And whether this is our first time, whether this is our many times that we've been here, we are so thankful that we have this opportunity. And we look forward to the guidance that we will receive, whether it comes internally, whether we hear it and move with it. Every word is important. And the one that strikes us most is the one that we should take with us and think about as the day goes on and as the week goes on. We're extremely thankful that we're able to do this, to get together again, and we give thanks for this opportunity. Amen.
Thank you so much, Tim. I neglected to mention our theme today is self-compassion. That was picked by Catherine. So there could be a little bit of theme in the songs you hear and the words we speak. So for the reading, I'm going to read to you the parable of the crow. A crow lived in the forest and was absolutely satisfied with its life. But one day he saw a swan. This swan is so white, he thought, and I am so black. This swan must be the happiest bird in the world. He expressed his thoughts to the swan. Actually, the swan replied, I was feeling that I was the happiest bird in the world until I saw the parrot, which has two magnificent colors. I now think that the parrot is the happiest bird in the world. The crow then approached the parrot. The parrot explained, Oh, I lived a very happy life until I saw a peacock. I have only two colors, but the peacock has many magnificent colors. The crow decided to visit a peacock in the zoo and saw that hundreds of people had gathered to see him. After the people had left, the crow approached the peacock. Dear peacock, the crow said, You are so beautiful. Every day, thousands of people come to see you. When people see me, they shoo me away. Peacock, I think you are the happiest bird on the planet. The peacock replied, I always thought that I was the most beautiful and happy bird on the planet, but because of my beauty, I am trapped here in this zoo. I have examined the zoo very carefully, and I have realized that the only bird that is not kept in a cage is the crow. So, for the past many days, I have been thinking that if I were a crow, I could live happily and roam everywhere, said the peacock. So, folks, let's be honest. Do we ever find ourselves thinking if we were just a little bit different, that maybe life would be better, it would be easier, it would be happier? Here are some words from the great philosopher Osho. Let's face it, there is always going to be somebody who is more beautiful, more talented, stronger, more intelligent, or apparently happier than you are. And conversely, there will always be those who are less than you in all of these ways. The way to find out who you are is not by comparing yourself with others, but by looking to see whether you are fulfilling your own potential in the best way you know how. Because comparison brings inferiority and superiority. When you do not compare, all inferiority and superiority disappears. Then you are simply there. A small bush or big high tree, it does not matter. You are being yourself. And you are needed. Just look around. All things are needed, and everything fits together. It is an organic unity. Nobody is higher and nobody is lower. Nobody is superior and nobody is inferior. Everybody is unique and perfect. Dr. Wayne Dyer said, if you don't love yourself exactly as you are, you won't be the best you can be at loving anyone else. Loving starts with the self. So, my friends, give gratitude for your journey, your unique journey, the people in your life, and all of the circumstances, good and bad, that have made you the wonderful person that you are today. Remember, the relationship we have with ourselves is the most important relationship we will ever have in our entire lives. Thank you for listening to my reading. It is time to move on to our healing. And for our new friends that are joining us, our healing segment is listening to a piece of music, sending our love and thoughts to those in the world that need healing, imagining them healthy, whole, and well. Also, I know there's critters, animals on the planet, places on the planet. There's so much unrest. And we can imagine them healthy, whole, and well. Those in the unseen world can use our human energy and direct it to where it is needed. So absent healing, it's definitely a real thing and definitely works. So our song today is Let It Be by the Beatles. And I ask that while we're sitting together, take a moment and just acknowledge how unique you are and how special you are, and turn up a little of the self-love, okay? If you do that, I'll do it too. All right, here is our song. And then the next voice you will hear will be Catherine for our address when the song ends.
I'm realizing that I'm like dancing to all of that music. I forgot about the camera. I can't help it. I got to move with good music. So I wanted to say thank you, Sandra, for giving me the opportunity to talk today. I'd like to share with all of you my own personal story. And then I want to focus a little bit on how self-compassion, how important it is in the grieving process. So first, my own personal story. is that our beautiful son, Sean, was only 22 years old when he passed of fentanyl poisoning. And as you can imagine, that took us to our knees, literally, physically and literally. So every night after he passed, I would have nightmares of being murdered, just in one way or another. And that went on for about a month. And then 2 days after his memorial, I thought, oh my God, I can't go to bed one more night and be murdered. I didn't know that it was fentanyl the reason he passed. And now I know why I was being murdered in my dreams, but it didn't make sense at the time. So I begged my son, Sean, please come, just come tonight, just one night of reprieve. And early that morning, I woke up and I saw a vision. And I've seen this before, but it was like a tall being, like 8 foot tall. And it almost looks like the Oscar statue. And it showed up in my dear friend Joanne's house, and it said telepathically to me, Sean's not coming to you, he's coming to Joanne. So I woke up and I thought, what the heck? And then I kind of blew it off like we do, right? So 2 days later, Joanne came down and took me out to dinner just to get me out of the house. So we went out to the restaurant, and I actually told her about my vision, and she's kind of used to that stuff with me. So we just kind of had a good laugh about it. And then that was that until I was driving home. And when I was driving home, I was listening to a podcast about a woman who had gotten a text message from her son 3 days after he passed. And I don't know what overcame me, but I turned off the radio and I screamed at my Shawnee like I'd never even screamed at him when he was here. And I screamed at the top of my lungs, butterflies and dragonflies are not cutting it. I want an email or a text message if I'm going to go forward. And I know that sounds so bratty, but it just flew out of my mouth. And with the dragonflies and the butterflies, ever since he'd passed, I would literally be being dive bombed by dragonflies, and butterflies would swirl around. And in fact, yesterday was his 3-year anniversary. And the other day I was on the phone with a dear friend and crying about Sean. And as I'm talking, this dragonflies around my car on the freeway. So it still is happening. So anyway, that's what I said. And then I forgot about it. And I went into my house and I got a phone call from my dear friend, Joanne. She says, Kath, I never check my emails on the weekend, but something just nudged me to check my emails. And she said, do you know who Clyde Butterfield is? Now I'm going to show you what she got. And I said, no, I don't know who Clyde Butterfield is. And she showed me this. Let me get me out of there. This is the email she got. And it says from Clyde Butterfield to Joanne. And all it says in one word, Sean, in bold letters. And at the bottom, you can't see, but it said sent from my iPhone. So now I was blown away. I knew my son was trying to connect to me, but I had no idea how. And so I talked to his siblings and all of his friends because Sean's very funny and would have these different characters. Nobody knew who Clyde Butterfield was. So I went to bed that night and I knew that he was trying to connect with me, but I didn't know how. The next morning I woke up and I was still in a daze. And so my husband took our youngest son out surfing for the day. And I allowed myself just to stay in bed and cry all day till finally something told me I need to get up and get something to eat. I went down and I was in the kitchen when this voice said to me, you need to go out and look through Sean's things. Now, I know this might sound strange to you, but I've had these connections my whole life. And I am bold enough to sometimes argue with the voices. So I was actually arguing, saying, I don't want to go through his things. I've already been through so much pain. But the spirit won out. And so I went in the garage and it literally was directing me to look at which pile, flip papers over, and I'm following the directions. And I found this beautiful letter from Sean. It was a Mother's Day letter, a love letter. Then I hear the voice and it says, that's not it. Look down on the right and flip one page over. I look down on the right, I flip a page over, and look what I found. I was blown away. I don't remember Sean making this. Maybe he made this when he was a child. I have no idea. I don't remember this. And there's a mom and Sean, and he actually even wrote butterfly and dragonfly and pointed the arrows to it. Well, the minute I saw this picture, I heard my son's voice in my head. And he said, "See, Mom, the butterflies and the dragonflies count too." So at this moment, I saw just how much compassion my son was showing me and the beautiful people in spirit were showing me. Just so much love and so much compassion. And I knew that I needed to show myself that same amount of compassion to be able to get through this. I'm extremely grateful. Before I even go forward, I'm just so grateful to all the beautiful souls in spirit, the people in spirit that I've met who've shown so much love. There's so much love for all of us. They're just right there rooting us on. It's amazing. So I want to talk a little bit about how we can give compassion to ourselves when we're going through something like this. Sandra wrote a great book, not pushing her book, but it's a wonderful book, We Don't Die. And there's a chapter that talks about how grief actually physically affects you. Physically affects you. It's not just emotional. We're literally physically suffering. This isn't just something that's in our head. And we need to give self-compassion during such a traumatic time. So what did this look like for me? Sometimes it looked like getting massages, going to the beach and talking to God all the time, getting extra sleep, allowing myself to sleep in, eating healthy foods, researching voraciously about the afterlife, getting support from a grief therapist. And guess what? Other times it included going to In-N-Out Burgers a lot and eating cheese fries and burgers and milkshakes, allowing myself days in bed just to cry, not forcing myself to go out and be with other people when I didn't want to, and not trying not to beat myself up for all of it. Sometimes it's just like the song says, we need to just kind of let it be. We need to not try to do anything. Just let things go, just observe life, rest and receive all that spirit can give us. Guess what? Life is messy. Grief is messy. And that's okay. I found for me that it's a process of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. At times, I will just have this completely higher perspective. It's phenomenal, and I understand how everything is and why it's meant to be, and I'm absolutely filled with love. And literally, 2 minutes later, it could be like a brick just hits me in the back of my head, and I'm taken down to my knees in absolute despair. That's part of it. But now I try to just practice some self-compassion, and I just let it course through my body. I try not to fight the pain as much. I started to understand that life includes both joy and sorrow. And again, that has to be okay. Self-compassion and grief can also include letting go of the shoulds. You know what I mean, right? We should be stronger. We should be harder. We should work longer. We should do a certain thing, say a certain thing, look a certain way. My God, are we hard on ourselves? Instead, I propose that we just need to meet ourselves exactly where we are at any given moment, and that could change moment to moment, and not think of some idea where we think we're supposed to be or where we should be. There are no shortcuts in all of this, I'm learning, and I need to just rest into what is instead of what I think it should be. In the book Radical Acceptance, the author states, and of course I couldn't memorize this, so I'm just reading this. In contrast to orthodox notions of climbing up a ladder seeking perfection, psychologist Carl Jung describes the spiritual path as an unfolding into wholeness, rather than trying to vanquish waves of emotion and rid ourselves of an inherently impure self. We turn around and we embrace this life in all of its realness, broken, messy, mysterious, and vibrantly alive. By cultivating an unconditional and accepting presence, we're no longer battling against ourselves, keeping our wild and imperfect self in a cage of judgment and mistrust. Instead, we're discovering the freedom of becoming authentic and fully alive. The definition of compassion actually means to be with, to suffer with. So how many times have we abandoned our own selves instead of having our own backs? I say that self-compassion is the ability to be able to allow ourselves the experience of life in all of its fullness, to be present for it all, and not just hide from the pain and only seek the pleasure. So when you're ready, find a way to have compassion for yourself today. Give yourself a break. In fact, stand up and offer applause for yourself. Give yourself a pat on the back for the ability to still be standing, for the efforts you have made just to get out of bed on those dark early days of grief when you didn't know if you were going to be able to literally live 1 minute more, for your wonderful body, which helps you to see today, to hear today, to feel today, and to think today. You are, every single one of you out there, a superstar just for making it this far. I want to end with a quote from one of my own personal heroes, Helen Keller. She says a lot of amazing things. You should look this woman up. She's quite amazing, and her teacher. One of the things that she said, though, is that the struggle of life is one of our greatest blessings. It makes us patient, sensitive, and godlike. It teaches us that although the world is full of suffering, it's also full of the overcoming of it. So go out there today, show some compassion for yourself as you walk through your life with all the beautiful messiness of it all. Thank you.
Catherine, thank you so much on behalf of all of us. And ladies and gentlemen, I know if we were in one room together, we'd be clapping, but you can press that raise hand button as a way to just send some love to Catherine. Thank you so much for sharing your journey, and Sean and your family. It's never easy. And your words really hit home. I know they did with me, and I'm sure with so many others. So my friend, you are a shining light parent, as it's called, and you are shining that light, and you're keeping Sean not only alive, because we know he is, and he'll continue to work from the unseen world, but who you're being for humanity now. You're a gift. So we love you and we thank you, and we really appreciate you being here on our Sunday gathering. So with that, my friends, we are going to move on now to our demonstration of mediumship. And we have the wonderful Tim Southwell here with us. If this is your first time at a medium demonstration, or if you've been to some before, I just want to let you know how we do it here on the Sunday gathering. First of all, our loved ones do not wait for Sunday or Monday morning, if you're down under, to come and join us. They are part of your lives. They continue to experience life in the new world they are in, and they get to create and do whatever they didn't do here. They can continue on, but they can multitask. And so very easily they keep one foot in our world. And it's so evident by our medium demonstrations when we hear them tell, accurate things about being with people in their life and what they see them doing. And so on our Sunday gathering, this isn't meant, for everybody to get a reading. It's not. It's, you see Tim, Catherine, and myself being representatives of the human world, here, Earth. So we'll get maybe 4 representatives of the spirit world saying that we are all here. We are all here with you. And so it's just a joyous occasion. You may be someone who gets to work with our medium today, so I'll let you know how this goes. In a moment, we're going to hear a song. And while we hear the song, just think of your loved ones. Think of that love for them and their love for you, and that self-compassion, all those good things. And when Tim begins to work, people from the spirit world have their personalities. So they'll, in their unique ways, introduce themselves to Tim. They might show them what they look like. They might show a memory. They might use his sounds and songs and tastes and smells. You never know. But you'll hear Tim give a few initial bits of information about the person that is working with him from the spirit world. Now, the spirit world knows exactly who's on our Sunday gathering today. If you think you're just out for a walk listening to this, well, your loved ones know it. So your loved one might come through. So when Tim gives those few initial bits of information, I want you to really listen in. Could this be my person? And your person could be a loved one. It could be a friend who has passed, or someone you worked with, or someone a little bit distant, but someone that you knew. You never know how they're going to work. We have well over 100 people with us today. So I'm going to ask if you can understand all the information that Tim gives in his description of the person, to press your raise hand button. Let me just clear all the hands right now. This is a good time right now if you're unfamiliar, if you want to play a little bit around with Zoom, you can press that raise hand button. Just experiment with it a little bit right now to see how it works. When you hit it, it'll say raise hand, and then it'll say lower hand. And why this is important is sometimes there's more than one person that can take all the information. So Tim will continue to work. And as you say, oh, no, I don't understand that part, then you're going to want to lower your hand. All right. So the idea is we're left with one person in our community with their hand raised. And if that ends up being you, what I do on my side is I press a button. You're going to get something that pops up on your screen that says host would like you to unmute. Now you don't see an unmute button yet, but you will when I press that button. Your camera stays off, so don't worry if you got curlers on, or, a face mask, or whatever you do on your side of the world. But we do love to hear your voice, okay? And so we'll ask you to unmute yourself if possible. And when you work with Tim or any medium, do your best to just answer with 3 simple responses when they give you any evidence. All we need you to say is yes, no, or I don't know, all right, to the information. Mediums do their very best for you, but sometimes something doesn't fit. So please don't worry if you have to say no. No simply means new opportunity to communicate with the spirit friend. If you're not getting the reading yourself, I still want you to pretend that you are, because like Tim, myself, and Catherine spoke, our words of self-compassion, they're to help everybody. And so when I witness a good medium reading here on a Sunday gathering, it just seems like some of the messages that come through, gee, I could use a little bit of that myself. So we'll just treat our friends in the spirit world like they're also on the panelists here, with those words that come through. So if some of those apply for you, please take them on. So as you work with the medium, again, just yes, no, or I don't know. And it's pretty much as simple as that. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to play a piece of music that Tim has picked, a beautiful song, and just feel that love for your loved ones. But also, please, this is our request just on our Self-Compassion Day, is that you feel their love for you, because, we really are perfect people, and life is tough. It really is. But there's no one other than you. You are just perfectly unique, and you are loved just the way you are. Even if you can't see the person loving you, they are still around you, and their love is real. So let me play this beautiful song, and then we'll be back with Tim for our demonstration. That was a beautiful song. Tim, thank you for choosing that. I'd never heard that before, and it says all the right things, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely like a wish. Don't you kind of wish that everyone could know that to be true? Oh, I get emotional watching it even. And I can't continue without saying to Kathy, or Catherine, sorry, I know Catherine is Kathy, that that was an inspiration.
Oh, thanks. I'm
So
only Catherine when I'm in trouble. I should really change.
well, you're definitely not in trouble. Yeah.
Thank
No,
you. Yeah, the
you're
spirit gets all the
welcome.
credit, honestly. It's even when I'm doing the readings myself as medium, there's so much love for the people that are here. It's just phenomenal. Yeah.
And it's truly a measure of a person how they speak, and you amazed us. So thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, well, let's kind of take a bit of a breather here, because I do know I have a father here, dad. I know I have dad here. And he wants to be specific because he's also mentioning that stepdad is in spirit as well. So there's dad and stepdad in spirit, and he wants to make sure that my daughter, he's looking for his daughter, understands that it's dad, at least to start with. And I'm just asking for a little bit more from him. And I do know that dad was around at the time in which daughter was learning to ride a bike. I do know that that was a time frame in which he was still here on Earth and was able to witness and help. I also know that getting into a bit of personality, he's an independent, solitary sort of gentleman. I don't feel you would have heard too many words of the word love in particular, but there was definitely compassion, and his words were of compassion. So he's adamant about his personality being there. Is there anyone who might be able to take that information?
Thank you very much, Tim. All right. Did you say it could be dad or stepdad?
No, this is dad, but also the person, the recipient, has a stepfather.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much. Well, we have Elaine and Shelley that can take all the information.
Okay. And I also want to clarify too. So dad is in spirit. He's here right now. Stepdad is also in spirit. So I want to make sure that that suits our sitters as well. And I know dad was around again for the bicycle. I know that actually he's very proud of his daughter because she did not need much guidance from him about this bicycle. That's very important for him to mention that, it seems. I'm not sure if that applies to both of our people, recipients.
All right. Elaine and Shelley, you can take all of that information. We are trusting you. You got your hand raised. Yes, they're still raised.
Okay. And I'm being drawn to a red bike without training wheels.
Okay. We had one hand go down. Thank you. We still have Elaine with her hand raised. Elaine
Elaine,
and
how are
Shelley,
you?
you keep listening in. Hi, Elaine.
Hi.
Hi, Elaine. Now, I do know you and I've worked with you before, but we'll make sure that this is evidence that hasn't come through.
Right. I have my father in spirit. I have my stepfather in spirit. I have strong memories of him teaching me to ride a bike, at first with training wheels and then without, and both bikes were red.
Okay, great. Gee, I think I'm with you.
I hope so.
Okay, so Elaine, if you could, as you know, our routine here, just the yes, no, and I don't know would be perfect.
Yes.
And I know it's dad who's coming through because I know dad was, he liked his solitary time.
I believe that's true.
And to go into that a bit more, I do know he was definitely involved in the family, but I do feel as if he had his own interests and he would, and that would include reading as well.
I don't remember the reading, but he definitely had his own interests.
Okay. It's funny because he's emphasizing the reading as in newspapers. He was someone who was very sure to read the daily newspaper.
I don't have a strong memory, but that could be true.
Okay. And he's also kind of bouncing that to yourself in that you like to keep up, like the daily news. Okay. The daily news is something that you hesitate to do, but you do follow regularly.
Especially recently.
Yeah. Okay. So that's just for him to identify that he's there and he's seeing what's going on now as well. I do want to go back to also the mention of compassion. I do feel that that word stands out for him. He was one that showed that in his way. So it was kind of quiet by his way, but it was definitely there.
I would think so.
And I do feel that the words I love you were a little bit few and far between.
Correct.
Yeah. Although I do feel he was an emotional man, he's not one to let his emotions get ahead of him.
From my knowledge, that seems correct.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to ask for dad too. Okay. From your dad, he was very much stereotypical father of the time. He would stay out of the kitchen.
Except for eating, yes.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. You'd have to do that at least. And I feel that those gender roles were very specific in the time that he was around, and he stuck to those.
It seems that's in my memory as well.
Okay. Um, I feel that there were with him a lot of times in which he wasn't able to be around the family. He was away, and I feel that's at work.
He was away at work.
And I feel that that was okay. He's giving me a couple of things here kind of fast. He didn't bring home work. It wasn't a preoccupation, but work took a lot of his time during the day.
I I feel that he worked normal work hours.
Normal work hours. Okay. Because I'm getting the sense from him that there's a wish that he had been around a little bit more often. The memory of the bike, for instance, is one in which sticks out, as in he wasn't able to spend a lot of time with you.
Well, in a way, that's true.
Okay. I'll take that almost as a no because I want to go back to the bike. And he's pointing me again towards the compassion so that pleasing Dad was an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
But I also know from Dad that he did have a certain bar that would have to be met. So he wasn't just a pushover. He had expectations.
Yes.
And I also sense too that he's bringing me through for a couple of things as well. Hitting upon expectations, he's he's letting me know that you have high expectations.
I have certain expectations, yes.
Okay, he's alluding to the fact that for you, and you're harder on yourself than others, but you have to it has to be a certain way, otherwise you're not satisfied.
To some degree.
Okay, and he must be referring to something that's recent as well, because I do also feel that the words "I love you" that he's been sort of in a sense pounding them through to me at least 3 or 4 times. He didn't get to say those so much in life, but he wants to make sure that you have that knowledge now. He is letting me know that he's come through before with those words. Does that make sense to you?
I haven't heard the words, but I've written them from him.
Okay. Okay. As evidence. Yeah. As your own evidence. I mean, so he's letting me know that this is sort of him stepping up and stepping forward a bit more. It's funny. He wasn't quiet, but he also wasn't pushy, but he's making that effort today to come in, and he wanted to make sure you understood it was Dad. That was really important. So I'm going to leave his love with you, and just to keep in mind that the I love you, I love you, I love you 3 times is really important to him. And if you could take that with you, I feel that's going to play out in a way that he's not alluding to me about. Okay, you have communicated with him before on your own.
Yes.
Okay, so I believe he's referring to that. So I don't need to be in that picture. He's referring to you. Keep that in mind. The I love you, I love you, I love you 3 times. And he absolutely feels it and absolutely means it.
Thank you so much, Tim. That was so nice and some good evidence in there.
Okay,
Appreciate
thanks,
it.
Lorraine. Thanks for working with me.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, I know I have a lady in spirit here, and I feel she's a friend. The name Marnie is coming forward, and I don't know that that's her name, but I believe the recipient would know of a lady by the name of Marnie. This lady who passed was a good friend. We went out for coffee a few times together, I feel. So I'm looking for someone who can take that information, a friend who has passed, a good friend, a coffee mate. She has a sense of humor too, a coffee friend. But the person has to be able to take the name Marnie in a way, not the person who's passed.
Okay, so it might not be the person who's passed, but you know a Marnie or.
Yes.
All right, friends, who can understand this lady in the spirit world? Coffee buddy. Press your raise hand button. Please. I feel everybody thinking.
Right. Scanning their
No
minds
hand-
for Marnie.
No hands were raised just yet.
Okay. What I will do is I'll release the name Marnie for now, because that's, that's an area for my development for sure. But I do want to talk about the friend who would be a coffee friend. And I do know she has that sense of humor. I do know she's witty. And okay, that's. Okay. So the recipient has black coffee only. That's the kind of coffee that she prefers. And I'm looking for a female friend.
All right, so somebody in our gathering is a black coffee drinker, and you have a friend in the spirit world that you joined for coffee. Who's got a great sense of humor. Please press your raise hand button if this makes sense to you. No takers?
No takers on that? Okay. Actually, I'm feeling drawn to the East Coast of the United States. So I feel that the person that I'm looking for is in that geographical area. And I do know those coffee chats meant a lot. And I do feel that our recipient is quite intelligent as well. There's a side to her that I want to get at in a second.
Jeanette has her hand raised. Hi, Jeanette.
Hi,
Hi.
Hi, Jeanette. How are you doing?
I'm fine.
Good.
How are you?
I'm just gonna go over that evidence because I want to make sure I get this right here.
Everything but the black coffee.
Okay, everything but the black coffee, including the East Coast of the States, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and because I do feel some of those coffee dates were in a city environment, very
No,
noisy.
actually, it was my neighbor, and we'd always have coffee in the morning.
Okay,
And she was like my best friend.
okay.
Maybe it's not me.
She had her habit. There's something about Coffee Mate that I'm not quite getting clear that she wants to pour it in. It's almost as if her choice of okay. She wasn't so picky about things in general. She was pretty laid back.
Yes,
Okay. And in fact, whether it was cream, whether it was milk, whether it was even the dried Coffee Mate, she would be at ease with any of those things.
right.
Okay.
Both of us were the same way.
Okay, great.
Just not black.
It's not the black coffee, and that may be what her joke was, just anything but black coffee. Okay, and it's very interesting. She is an intelligent lady,
Yes, she was.
and the smarts with her, it's like street smarts, but there's
Oh, yeah. Yes.
definitely there's a sense of humor to it. She didn't take things very seriously usually.
Right.
Okay. Now I do want to talk about her. I do feel that you're aware in her family there was a passing that shook her.
Yes.
And I feel that that was one of the very few times that she showed that very vulnerable side.
Are you talking about a passing in my family that affected her?
No, a
or-
passing of her in her family.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Most likely, yeah. She
Okay,
had a lot of attitude.
I do want to focus on one vulnerable time of hers because I feel that she could see her way through many adverse situations.
Yes. She was
But-
very, very smart in that
Yeah,
manner.
and I feel though that she made you aware, and she didn't even need to bring it up, but there's a very important part in her life, a time in her life in which she struggled with
Yeah.
keeping that veneer up.
Yes.
And I feel very much that your presence in that conversation would have helped support her through that.
Right. I was
Okay.
always there. Yes.
Yeah, and
Not just coffee. We would just
no, for sure.
shopping too.
Yeah. she's she has that she had a tendency to do alliteration. Do you know what I mean?
No, I do not.
Where you're using the same, it's sort of the speech pattern where you might have a cup of coffee, you know, CC or DD. It almost like she structured her sentences very intelligently
True.
and almost like in a sort of a game style. Like she comes across very smart.
Yes.
Um, and not only smart, but just perceptive as well, because she's letting me know that she, in conversations to support you, could see through some things that you didn't necessarily tell her.
True.
And I know she knew you quite well, but I also feel that that was just her as well. There's almost like a side of intuition in which she would go right towards the heart of the matter and be able to tell you exactly what was going on.
Yes.
But her wording though would be so careful and so full of, and the word compassion must be coming up today because that pops in. She would be just so kind in how she worded things.
Right.
And what was great about, I feel, her and her ability to support is that she could take you from point A, where you're feeling the most, when one's feeling the most stressed, to point B, and she would be with you. She would identify it and be with you for that whole journey from one side to the other.
True.
Um,
It's really odd because the night before last, she had a visitation dream from her.
cool. Oh, that's really cool. She had I feel like she liked to sing, but she wasn't necessarily a singer.
Yeah, that's
Okay. And guess some of, I have to say, some of the things that are coming through, she's doing it in song almost for you. So she must have done that in your presence and even been a little sing-songy in her speech pattern.
sometimes, yes.
Yeah. And she's just giving me the name Doris Day. I'm not sure if that's a connection that the two of you would have had.
I don't know. No,
Okay.
I'm not
But
that.
we'll leave that because that could be right up there with Marnie for today at least. Um, she's giving me another side of herself. When she was a strong listener as well, it would almost seem as if she wasn't listening, but she was taking in everything that was going on.
Right.
And I'm being alerted to the sound of that coffee spoon being stirred in the cup while she's sort of working things out and talking even.
Right.
She's letting me know she would have been there and she was there at beck and call.
Right.
And even a phone, she also had that ability to know when to come visit. She would pop in knowing something was up.
Yes.
Okay. Because it's almost as if I'm not even waiting for the phone from her. I'm going to go over and see what's going on.
We've done that to each other.
Yeah. And she's alerting me to one of the topics being about your son. Would you understand that?
Well, I have two sons. One's deceased.
Okay. And that's been kind of happening lately too. So it's the sense there that she would have been like an aunt to them, close,
Yes.
close.
Yes.
Yeah. And I feel like there was nothing that they couldn't have told her and that she wouldn't have been happy to help them with.
Yes. My children and her children both played together. They grew up together.
Oh yeah. It's almost a sense, I wanted to say auntie, it was almost like a sense of like a second mom, but I feel like she was respectful of boundaries. And so that would have been
Right.
where she was with that. She's
Oh,
coming
she would discipline them though if they were like naughty.
That's good to have that side too. She's coming in just to, in a sense, say hello, and again, there's a feeling here of being missed, and she's here to say she's there, she's watching, she's still supporting 100%. And the day that the two of you, not soon, but the day the two of you can get together again will be a delight, and coffee will be on the menu.
That'll be.
Yeah. So, thank you, Jeanette, for working with me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jeanette. Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome. Okay. Hmm. Okay, now names are coming forward, but they're not seem to be hitting the right mark here because the name Dominic has come forward, and I know that I have a gentleman in the spirit, and I feel that this gentleman is uncle to, again, another lady recipient. And I'm not saying the uncle's name is Dominic, but the name Dominic would be one that could be understood by the recipient.
All right. Thanks so much.
So uncle in spirit, and the sitter would recognize the name Dominic.
Okay. Well, we have, let's see, Katerina with her hand raised. I
Yes.
know another hand was going up and down. Oh, Katerina, I accidentally just muted you. If you could do that one more time.
Hi,
Hi. Is it Katharina or Katerina?
it's Katharina, but you can call me Kat. Yeah, it's only when I'm in trouble that I'm called Katharina.
Okay. All
Kind
right,
of like
Kat.
Kathy, right? Yeah. Oh, great. So, Kat, you would understand uncle in spirit.
Yes,
At least one uncle in spirit. We'll get narrowed down to who that is, and
Uh-huh.
the name Dominic as well. Dominic in spirit.
yes.
Okay. Now, I do feel the gentleman in spirit, I was getting the sense that he was a manager. He was a leader of a leader in a business. Does that make sense?
The uncle or Dominic?
The uncle.
I don't believe so.
Okay. I'm just going to hold that for a bit because there may be a chance that they are both here. I want to talk about the uncle, though, that was he played a large role in your life. And it feels like he stepped in at a time which was really needed for the family. Do you understand that?
Oh, wait a minute. Okay. I have several uncles.
Okay. So this is a gentleman who stepped into the family, and I feel that there was a time that was it's sort of moral support, financial support, but he was just there for the family.
Yes.
Okay. And I get from him the sense of strictness, but that's only when you were if you didn't know him, he came across as strict.
Yes.
And there's a sense from him, though, just like the other lady mentioned, she wasn't afraid where that lady wasn't afraid to have some discipline. He would not be afraid to stick to his guns about discipline.
I'm not sure.
Okay. I'm going to go back then into the discipline because I know there's a streak it's not just a streak of kindness. He only showed kindness a little bit, but there was a huge depth of his love for the family. Does that make sense?
I'm not sure.
Okay. I want to check just to see if there's anyone so hang on for a second there, Katerina. If
Okay.
there's anyone else in the group here who can understand that information. So it's an uncle. He was a leader, manager role, and also he had that very strict persona, but he was actually a very kind person to the family.
Thank you, Tim. Is there someone else in our gathering today that can understand all that information? Okay, Lisa has her hand raised, and Kat, you just stay just where you are.
Yeah, Kat, if you could keep listening. And Lisa, you understand that information as presented, correct?
Yes, I do.
And you can take the name Dominic.
Yes.
Okay. And I also want to say with your uncle, though, that there was a side of him that was a disciplinarian.
Very much.
Okay. However, I feel that, again, for family, it was a limitless love.
Yes.
And I do feel that he very much was needed at a point that you would know for support. And again, that was kind of moral support, but also financial.
Yes.
And I do feel from his perspective that the financial part doesn't matter at all. It's more about my family, my people. So his love of family was critical to him.
Yes.
Um, and I do feel too that he would have given up, and this is sort of perception, he would have given up anything for that. But I do feel he did support the family even to the point of hardship for himself.
Yes.
And that's just the nature that he was. And it almost he's giving me the impression that that depth was almost a surprise to him as it was to family.
Yes.
In that before he needed to step in, he might not have come across as that kind of guy that would have had that depth. And it was just in the moment, it really opened up who he was.
Yes.
Now, he's also making me aware that you are someone the family goes to for advice,
Yes.
and that you are very much, and they like to do this, they like to draw in that connection, that there's a depth in you in which for family and close friends, you would go that, not just the extra mile, you would go the whole distance with them.
Yes.
Sometimes it's hard to admit that when it's about ourselves, but that that feeling is what he's highlighting for sure. And the reason that you'll be highlighting that is that recently your words have been very important, and it feels to a young man. Would you understand that?
Yes, very much.
Yeah, and that he's also alerting me that sometimes there's some doubts that you would have about that, but you still go forward, much like he would have done. You wouldn't have known about his doubts, and he would have never shown it. He would have been just as strong working his way through. And that's what you had to do.
Yes.
He's very careful about the words he's choosing. And again, he's relaying that to yourself, that you would also be very careful with the words you're choosing.
I think it's the profession he helped.
Okay, yeah. And I feel very much that he's here to really give you that support, to say, just as he did, because you have the example of him, you know where he's coming from, you know what he's like. You are actually that to the young man that we were just talking about.
Yes.
There's a sense of admiration from him for that. It's in the lineage, even though I feel there might be a family connection that's kind of disrupted there, it's still in the lineage.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's funny, your uncle also wasn't one to divulge too much information where not necessary. Would you understand that?
Yes.
Yeah, he kept a lid
Need
on.
to know basis.
Yes, he kept a lid on who knew what. And that's why I feel it, as I sort of try to lean in a bit to see if I can be a little bit more specific, he's kind of saying that, no, that's not happening. Just enough to recognize. So with him, I feel very much the support, and absolutely, if there's ever, and he's giving me the idea that you've had some doubts about whether I should, from you, continue this. He's there, and he's saying, absolutely, you've got, like he did, you've got what it takes for that advice. You do know that, and to stay with that. And I do feel that he's alluding to the fact that the young man would still need your support and will for a little while longer.
Yes.
So with that, thank you, Lisa, and
Amazing. Thank you, Tim.
for coming through too. You're welcome.
Thank you so much. One more.
One more, sure. Let's see who's here. That's interesting. Trying to get the whole picture here because this was a careful one. I know I have a gentleman in spirit, and speaking of not wanting to give away too much, so I have a gentleman in spirit that the recipient would know, and this gentleman would have at one point I feel it's stronger just an interest. I feel like he's studied druids. So I feel there's an interest, but then a study of druids. And I feel it's mostly self-study. But this gentleman, I'm not sure of relationship at this point, if that's okay. And he is, yeah, he was quite involved with the concept, the idea of that. And I'm gonna leave it at that for now.
Right, all right, friends. Who do we know in the spirit world that had a love for studying druids? That's unique, for sure. Press your raise hand button. Might need to think back. Oh, Karen has her hand raised. Karen, if you would press your unmute button. There you go. Oh, no, your hand went down, so that might have been by accident. Is that by accident, Karen or Karen? Tim, I think that was an accident.
Okay, sure, we'll take that by accident. Well,
Yeah, that was an accident.
Okay, thanks, no
Nice to
problem.
talk to you anyway. Okay. If I know I have a gentleman in spirit, then it may be that one of our members in the audience has a strong interest in druids and druidry.
All right, someone here alive presently with us. You yourself has that interest in druids and druidry. If you fit that description, press your raise hand button. No hands going up. Or no one wants to admit. I don't know.
Yeah. There is a sense. So I'll work with this gentleman a little bit more because I know that.
Carly has her hand raised. Sorry to
Okay.
Carly, if you press your unmute button.
Hi, you're right. Yeah, I did. It was a while ago, but yes, I did study Druids. But it was a long time ago, but I
Right.
did.
That still counts. And okay, thanks, Carly. I do know Carly as well, but this is definitely not a contact that I've really so far can identify. So this gentleman in spirit, Carly, I feel like he is a gentleman who, if he didn't pursue that, he would have shared that it's a topic that he would have loved. I'm again leaning towards uncle. I feel it's a relative, but not a close relative.
Yes, I do have more than one uncle in spirit, and there is one that
Okay,
I think.
so let's go with that gentleman though too. I also he's another one coming across as quite independent, doing his own thing.
Yes, yeah, I did at times, yeah.
At times, I'll almost take that as a no because doing his own thing. Why? He's making me aware that he had a variety of interests that no one else necessarily would have shared.
Yes, I can understand that for him, yes.
Okay. And also I feel that with him, he's not a gentleman that you could easily push into an opinion and to agreeing with you. He would hold his own.
Yes.
And also with him, there's a very curious mind though. So he wasn't offset. I feel very much that he would want to explore other people's opinions before he came up to his own.
Yes.
So he was not closed-minded is a short way, I guess, of saying that. And I feel that you knew this gentleman more so at a younger age.
Yes.
And I do get the sense that he would have been aware of your interest in things beyond just what we see.
Yes.
And it feels like at times he could be doting. He would go out of his way to support you.
Yeah, he could. Yeah, he was.
Yeah. And again, that almost, if you go by appearances, that's almost uncharacteristic of the way he looked. I feel like he looked more rough and tumble, but he was actually a sweet guy.
Yes, I can understand that. Yeah.
Not that he was rough and tumble. He just didn't necessarily look like, and you know, it's you don't want to go too much into looks, but it looks as if he would have been stricter. He would have been maybe a little bit sterner, like almost like a man's man, as they say sometimes, that sort of figure.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, that's
okay.
right.
However, I do feel once the cat was out of the bag, you knew that his he's funny wording. He could be gooey on the inside.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. And treacle, he's saying as well. So I do feel he must have had a sweet tooth. Not sure if you're
Can't remember. No, I can't remember that.
that he may be bouncing it to you. You have a sweet tooth for the syrupy
Yes.
like treacle and caramel
Yes,
stuff.
I definitely do. Yes.
Okay. And he's even throwing you under the bus in that you've kind of dabbled with that recently. Does that make sense to you? Feel free
I've
to
thought
go.
about no, I have no, I'm gonna say no.
Okay, good. Good. That's good news in a way too.
Yes, sorry, no, I'm lying. I'm lying.
Oh.
Yes, I just remembered what I had to eat earlier. Yes.
This gentleman's very unique. He's very loving. He's a very loving man, but it's almost like he would do that in piecemeals. He would only show that in piecemeals. You wouldn't see that all the time.
I don't know what you mean.
Okay. So it feels very much like he was one that actually led with his heart more than he let people know. Do you understand what I mean there?
Not exactly. No, sorry.
Okay. So I do feel very much that he was and working on rewording this, very emotional type of person on the inside.
Yes, I can understand that. Yes.
And he would only really show that, or it would only show through the cracks periodically, not often.
Yes, very true.
And this gentleman knew your dad. Is that correct?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. Because there's a sense from him that he's highlighting father. Okay. Okay, I'm going to reword that. He's highlighting that father was like that as well. Very emotional, but only let that show in bits and pieces.
Yes, very true.
Okay. Okay, so from this gentleman, it's again like he's keeping things very close to his chest. He's not giving away too much about what's going on in what went on in his life. But he is highlighting the fact that he stifled his emotion and that he felt so much more than he allowed the world to see.
Yes, I understand that. Yeah.
And he's aiming commendations towards you because you don't. People know how you feel. There are times that the emotions just are totally out there for everybody to see. And that, he is saying, is the way to go. I don't know if you can understand that.
Yes. Well, yes, I am like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And from him, it's a don't hold back. The sense from him is holding back for him was okay. It was sufficient. And there's almost a sense of regret. Again, that would be perception. You wouldn't know. But what he's pushing that towards yourself is be out there, do what's there, especially lead with those emotions, because those will speak volumes of who you really are.
Okay.
And,
That makes sense, actually. Thank you.
okay. And so I thank your friend for coming through. And thanks, Carly, for working with me.
Oh, thank you, Tim. Lovely to see you working. See you soon.
Thanks.
Tim, thank you so much for being our medium and friend today. And I know we've got some more words from you of inspiration coming up very soon in our
Thank you.
But thank you so, so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Catherine sent me a little message in the chat box. She forgot to mention something during her address. So before I continue with announcements, over back to you, Kathy.
Okay, so I guess this is a perfect opportunity to show about self-compassion, right? Because the most amazing thing about the whole Clyde Butterfield, I guess I was nervous and just skipped over it. So I want to get this email up because it's kind of like the 4-minute mile. I just feel like if I show you guys that this is possible, I have this feeling that there's going to be a lot more of this. Here's the text message. Clyde Butterfield, it turns out, I had talked to my dad and his wife the next day. Clyde Butterfield was my dad's wife's brother-in-law who had passed 5 years before Sean passed. He was in AA. His wife had shut down his email right after he passed, and he had no iPhone. It's just such beautiful evidence that in the spirit world, there's so many people who are helping, and it just blows my mind. And I also have to give credit to my son for the humor of just putting Sean in bold writing, like, I'm here. But I just wanted all of you guys to see that and show, I guess I just showed perfect example of being okay with the mistakes that we make, right? And just being ourselves and moving forward with it. But I didn't want to pass that opportunity up because it wouldn't do Clyde or Putty, as we all knew him, justice, and it wouldn't do my son justice for the amount of work that they did to get that through. So thank you, Sandra, for
Oh, you're most welcome. Thank you for
allowing me to
sharing
add
that.
that in.
Yeah, our loved ones want us to know that they're alive and well. And you just met some people that are in our Sunday gathering that are in the spirit world, just coming in to say hello. We're still here with you. And if your loved one didn't come through today, doesn't mean they're not there. I don't know how they pick who comes through on the different Sundays. That's what they do. But I know we can all take something from their words, but keep talking to your loved ones, really, truly. And yes, some can work through electronics and text messages and emails and do some weird things with lights and computers and things. But others, it's just this gentle nudge, or if you're living your life and thinking of something else random, and suddenly you'll get a thought about them or a shared memory or a feeling. That's just them pushing their way in, saying, I'm right here with you. So they love you, they support us. I've now at 27 years been studying the afterlife and now have well over 650 hours of episodes between my two podcasts. It is all real, folks. We will see them again, but being human is the hardest part of our existence. If you do not have a copy of my book and you want a free PDF version, you can have it. As Catherine said, chapter 10 is all about grief, and I think it's one of the most important chapters. If you're not yet already signed up for something that we offer, one of our classes or something, you can have a free copy just at the bottom of the page at wedon'tdie.com. Just enter your name and your email address. It says you'll get the first few chapters, but it's the whole book. I'm not going to just give you the first few chapters. You get it all. So go to chapter 10. Okay. Some announcements. First of all, if you want to reach Tim, our medium today, you can find him at psychicmediumtim.com. All the mediums that we have on our Sunday gathering have a promise to you that they offer that 10-minute guarantee. And that's something I want all mediums in the world to do. If you're not happy in the first 10 minutes with the level of quality coming through, you don't pay. The reading stops. So if you guys book mediums, just ask, do you have that 10-minute guarantee? Do you? And if they don't, and look at that price tag, you might be suspicious of them. So anyways, Tim does, and he's a great guy. Coming up this week on Tuesday, we have our Sitting in the Power Hour with medium Scott Milligan. It's a beautiful way to recharge that spiritual battery of yours. It's at 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. London time, but if you sign up for anything we do, you get the replays if you can't join us live. On Friday, we're back with Scott Milligan for what's called In the Arms of Eternity. We start by sitting for healing, sending healing, and then he is a trance medium. So we have the most incredible conversations, we really do, that we can ask questions of a friend in the spirit world. So if you've never attended, please come. You can leave a donation, come for free, but register. And again, if you can't join us live, sign up. You'll get the replay. On Saturday, you can join Scott and myself. We're doing a 3-hour workshop called Exploring Trance. with automatic writing. So you want to bring a notebook and a pen with you, be an opportunity to quiet the mind. You'll have your eyes closed for quite a bit of the class and feel that gentle love from loved ones in the unseen world. And bring that pen for automatic writing. It'd be an opportunity to share words of inspiration and work with your loved one a little bit. So we'll be opening that up on Saturday. If you're interested in our medium classes, they just started 2 weeks ago. You can always join at any time. You'll get the video replays that you have missed. So everything you can find at wedon'tdie.com. You can click on the store page. You'll see everything coming up. Also, our friends Carrie and Phil, mediums and our medium tutors, they'll be back with us on our Sunday gathering, giving the address and doing the demonstration of mediumship. I also have 2 brand new podcast episodes on We Don't Die. You can meet a Swiss lady named Evelyn Elsasser, and she has studied over 1,000 after-death communications. They're called ADCs, and she wrote a book called Spontaneous Contacts from the Deceased, and it's these life-changing things that happen that we know that our loved ones are still around. So it's an interesting conversation. And then on my Shades of the Afterlife podcast, it's episode 200. So it's a big celebration. I interview the great George Norrie, who's the host of Coast to Coast AM, also producer Tom, who produces the show. And then you may know the name Dannion Brinkley, who was struck by lightning, and he's had 3 near-death experiences, so he is part of that as well. You can find everything at wedon'tdie.com. You can just click around. It is all there. If you click on the Sunday Gathering page, you can register for next week. You can leave a donation if you like, which reminds me, thank you to all of our friends that have donated to our Sunday Gathering to make it possible today. So with that, I am going to send it over to Tim for a few inspirational words and then the closing prayer.
Thanks, Sandra. Thanks for this week. And also thanks again, Kathy. Just themes sometimes come through in these weekends. And definitely the idea of being compassionate to yourself there's our structure. And by being compassionate to yourself, that doesn't mean pushing yourself, but giving yourself the time to almost develop, explore, become further who you really are. Sometimes that's time to heal. Sometimes that's time to explore. Sometimes that is time to drive forward. It's that listening to that little voice inside, which is telling you what you need, and then following it, not just ignoring it. And by being able to explore those things, be kind to yourself, you reveal more about who you are. There's not the pressure, there's not the push to do that. It's on your terms. You get to discover sometimes hidden depths that you didn't realize you had. And absolutely showing the world what drives you, what makes you unique, what allows you to be an important person to be heard. Revealing that to yourself happens in those moments of self-compassion. And then we can step forward and show the world that as well. And with that, I'll lead us next into prayer. So if you're comfortable to bow your heads and close your eyes, we're thankful again that we have the opportunity to be able to discover who we really are. It's our own personal great mystery of our own life, what it is that we're to do, who we are to be, what it is coming next. Those all come from those quiet moments inside. Our self-care, our self-talk, being kind to yourself allows those things to come forward. And we're so grateful we're able to be on that journey, to be able to experience it daily. And when we need to take the break, we know we are supported. We're supported from family, friends here, and family and friends on the other side. They will always be there. And we know that that's something that we can trust in. And so with that knowledge, that hopeful experience that you get to have as well, we give thanks that that can be, and we can understand more of who we are and why we are. We give thanks. Amen.
Thank you so much, Tim. And thank you, Kathy. We love you guys. We do. For our members of the Sunday Gathering who are in the spirit world, thank you for joining us. keep sending those signs. We're open to them, absolutely. And to everyone that is at home or wherever you are part of our global family. It's very, very real. We're going to keep this going on for eternity. I can promise you that. Our sing-along song, we have one, yes we do, at the end, is from the movie Sing, and it's I'm Still Standing. It's a great Elton John song, but just remember how tough you are and show yourself some love. So here's our song, should you wish to sing along. Are we going to see you next week on the Sunday gathering? The correct answer is yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, thanks again, everyone. We love you. We read all the messages in the chat box. Thank you so much for being part of our family, and we'll see you again next Sunday, if not sooner. Bye for now.